Hello, and thank you for joining us to learn about the latest Planning for the Next Normal at School Playbook, Physical Activity, Physical Education, and Health Education chapter. We'll briefly walk through a couple of plays and resources from the chapter checklist today. I'm Flora Daniel, manager at Kaiser Permanente, and today I'm joined by Carly Wright, co-author of the chapter.
Hi, Flora.
Hi, Carly. Thank you for joining us today. To start, can you share a little bit about your background and experience?
Absolutely. So my name is Carly Wright, and I am the Vice President of Advocacy, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for Shape America, the Society of Health and Physical Educators. So we are the national nonprofit that represents health and physical education teachers across the country. And I have had the opportunity to work with health and PE teachers all across the country to support their programs for the past 14 years. And I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome, and thank you for joining us today. So before we dive into a few specific plays, I just want to give a brief overview of the checklist for this chapter that includes guidance and recommendations on how to provide physical activity, physical education, and health education for all students, family, and staff. So the first play in this chapter is require the inclusion of physical education and health education instruction time in the master school schedule. Make any necessary adaptations to instruction in order to focus on reconnecting with students, building relationships, and setting expectations for the school year. Provide professional development by training health education and physical education teachers in areas like equity, trauma-informed best practices, social emotional learning, and appropriate instruction. Offer recess for all grade levels and encourage teachers to incorporate physical activity within class time. Offer physical activity throughout the school day by providing teachers with guidance and examples of classroom-based physical activities that can increase student engagement. And you'll see on the screen is a glimpse of what the full playbook chapter checklist looks like. And Carly, to get us started today, could you share why it's important to address physical activity, physical education, and health education as we plan to return to school? And how does the checklist help us do that?
Yeah, great question, Flora. Thanks. As schools work to recover from COVID-19, physical activity, physical education, and health education really do play a very integral and important role in that recovery. As we've heard from parents and families about their children's experience during this time, they have reported all-time low levels of physical activity for their children and are having significant concerns about their children's mental and emotional health and the toll that the pandemic has taken on them. And so teaching these social and emotional learning skills is naturally embedded in standards-based health education and physical education curriculum. And so with the right context and guidance, school staff and teachers can provide students with the physical activity and physical education that they need to stay active and healthy in our next normal. And the need for students to develop the skills necessary to engage in healthy behaviors and to learn how to cope with stress and anxiety, which are important skills that are taught through comprehensive health education, also really takes on a whole new meaning as schools work to recover from this global health crisis. And so this chapter checklist really does provide us with the plan, the path, and the resources for schools to do this well.
Great, and thank you for making that connection for us. And I think now we'd like to kind of dive into the checklist. And so if you could share one of the plays from the checklist and a resource that kind of supports that play.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we want to start with our first play, which is to require physical education and health education instruction. We know that during COVID, there were a lot of different models of learning, learning from home, hybrid models, or in person, and a lot of adaptations had to be made. And we know that in some cases, health education and physical education instruction were not happening because of these modifications. As we work to recover from COVID, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing physical education and health education instruction, and ensuring that there are full inclusion across the entire school population, including our students with disabilities, in that physical education and health education instruction. And fortunately, at Shape America, we have just worked in partnership with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to offer resources to schools to be able to do this well. And so we have updated our Shape America school reentry considerations for K-12 physical education, health education, and school-based physical activity to be able to provide schools with the tools, resources, and guidance that they need in order to do this well.
Great. Thank you, Carly. Thank you for highlighting that resource that's available to all and free to access and
Yes.
implement. Now, if you had to highlight a second play and resource, what would that be?
Yeah, so our second play that I would highlight is number 2, which is to make necessary adaptations to instruction. So of course, we all know that this new school year is going to look different because of everything that children and students have experienced over the past year and a half during the pandemic. So it will be necessary to make adaptations to instruction, even if we're all back in person for the most part. It will be really important as we begin this school year to focus on reconnecting with students and to focus on building those relationships and setting expectations for the new school year. Skills-based health education specifically lends itself very well to this, as health educators really focus on teaching students how to advocate for themselves, teaching them how to make proper health decisions, teaching them how to interpret and navigate information, health information that's out there in the world, and teaching them those important coping skills just to deal with day-to-day life. So we know that there will be the need to make these types of adaptations to instruction to be responsive to any type of trauma or stress and anxiety that students may have experienced during the pandemic. Fortunately, we also have some great resources on the website available for that as well, that you'll see actually linked right there within that play. We have a blog from some of our fantastic health educators out in the field, health educators and physical educators as well, talking a little bit about lessons learned during COVID-19 and how what might be some best practices and teaching strategies that teachers could use to make sure that they're understanding all of the unique experiences that all of your students may have been through during COVID-19 and how they might in this new school year be able to support them in unique and meaningful ways. So I encourage you to check out that free blog and resource available online as well.
That's great. That's great. Bringing in voices all around on this very important topic. Well, if I think we're kind of rounding out our dive into the playlist. So if you had to highlight a third play and resource to share at this time, what would that be?
So I would highlight our final play around offering physical activity throughout the school day. Coming back in person, it will be important to be intentional again about integrating physical activity opportunities throughout the school day. So we do have a play that focuses specifically on recess, but that is one opportunity for physical activity throughout the school day. But in addition to that, there are opportunities for classroom teachers to integrate physical activity within their teaching and their lessons. Also opportunities to integrate physical activity during transitions and before and after the school day as well. And really just ensuring that students have those movement opportunities embedded throughout the entire time that they're within that school building, as well as providing resources to families to help them know how they might be able to engage as a family in physical activity throughout the day. And there are some great resources available to be able to do this as well. So our partners at Springboard to Active Schools have worked with us to provide some great resources around strategies for classroom-based physical activity specifically. So there's some great tools and free resources here for classroom teachers to create supportive environments to be able to integrate physical activity into the classroom. And so I encourage you to check those out and share those with school administrators, parents, and teachers as well.
Great, and thank you, Carly, for kind of walking us through that. And as we wrap, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Just, I would just reiterate the importance of integrating and prioritizing physical activity opportunities for all students as schools work to recover from COVID. In addition to not having access perhaps to school facilities, to school grounds, often, school grounds and school facilities are where students and families have the most opportunities to be physically active. And so those opportunities have been limited over the past year and a half. So this gives us an opportunity to really reset and continue to prioritize engaging students in those movement opportunities and physical activity opportunities. And then, of course, just the importance of prioritizing both health education and physical education as we work to recover as a school community from COVID-19, to ensure that they have those opportunities to build connections with their colleagues and students moving forward into the new school year. Anything that we can do to support students moving forward is just critically important right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much for walking us through a couple of plays from the chapter, as well as resources that are accessible for all and free to access and download. So really appreciate that. And thank you to our viewers for joining us for this conversation. To access the checklist and additional resources, visit the Thriving Schools website using the link on the screen. And thank you again for joining us, and take care.